Hey guys, here we are again. Yesterday I talked about enjoying Sabbaths or really finding a way to enjoy a Sabbath, those sabbatical times where you can kind of cease from all of your labors and find rest unto your soul. That's one of the things that Jesus came into the world to accomplish, not only the saving of our soul, but he says, "Come unto me, all you that are labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." And we understand the rhythm of life, right? But we have a biological rhythm that we have to rest and restore. That when we sleep at night, and especially if we have a good sleep, we go into not only a REM sleep that refreshes our mind and our intellect and our thinking processes, but also a deep sleep, where the body goes through its own healing. And deprive people of REM and deep sleep, and you're going to find that they're not only going to become depressed and maybe having mental problems, but also they're going to be physically, they're going to begin to suffer. So we just have to have that time where we rest. And I often suggest to guys, if you have small kids at home and your wife spends a lot of time caring for them, there ought to be at least one day a week, if not two, where you become the one who initiates a day of rest for your wife. And one of the wonderful things, of letting your wife sleep in the morning while you take care of the kids. I used to do this on Saturdays. I would always get up and make breakfast for the kids, and so that my wife could sleep for a while. And so it's really, really a precious thing. And I would even add to that, when it comes Sunday morning to go to church, dads, if you really want to set a good example for your kids and a pattern that they can imitate, you be the one who makes sure that you're first up and you're getting the kids out of bed and getting them ready for school. We oftentimes, relegate that to the wife as we sit and we watch sports or read the paper or do something that we do. It's really a powerful thing when you communicate to your kids that I get up in the morning and help the family get prepared for church because this is an incredible value. It's something of real importance to us. And so those are some things I just really encourage you to do, especially as we're going through this difficult season and the school thing is all messed up. And, it's a lot of us are just saying, hey, I just need a break. I feel the stress of a father. I mean, as a man, where you need to provide for your family, especially if the employment situation. I talk to different people who are working stores and have their hours cut, and how that really translates into less income and some real struggles. I would just simply say, if it's really getting tough, please let us know at the church. We do have certain funds that we set aside for people in the congregation who are up against some expenses, especially when you're talking about running out of food and things of that nature, or a vehicle that you need to be repaired and stuff. God provides, and we want to let you know that those resources are there, that not to feel reluctant to call us. We handle it in a very confidential and discreet way because we know it's embarrassing for a lot of us to have to admit that, I just can't make this bill. And so we're a family, and we just want to let you know we're here. And I would just say to those of you who maybe have some extra resources, we have a fund set up aside at the church for that, and it's not infrequently that those funds get exhausted because sometimes there's a great deal of need. But nonetheless, we would ask you to be available for that, and maybe if you have some skills that you can share with some other people. Because one of the things that happens in all of our lives is we have the storms of life. And it's interesting that when you look at the Bible, you find there's probably no metaphor that's used more frequently to describe the awesome power of God than the frightening power of God as expressed through the storm. And we often think, well, primitive people saw storms and they thought that God was the storm, and that's certainly what the Canaanites believed. Baal was pictured as this God with a lightning bolt in his hand, a warrior holding a lightning bolt that he was going to thrust upon the earth. And I tell you, in Israel, they're some of the most powerful storms I've ever experienced in my life, seeing them come through with wind and rain and lightning coming off the Mediterranean Ocean. And man, they were, there were times when I was glad I wasn't outside, and it was pretty frightening. And so it's a land that that knows what it means to have a terrible storm. Even though they don't get a lot of rain, they do get some really horrific storms that when it comes, sometimes it really comes full force. That's why it's interesting when in a place like that where you have the water, the storms come off the ocean, they hit mountain cliffs that are pretty high, and they go up, and then you got valleys below, and it dumps all this rain. You have flash floods, and then it goes up in the mountains again, up into Jordan, and continues to rain and hail and storm and sleet. We read various stories especially in the conquest of Canaan in Judges, where God used the storms literally to fight against Israel's enemy and give them victory. And that's why when you read through the Psalms, you find oftentimes there's a lot of references to storms. I think about Psalm 83:15, where he's talking about God judging evildoers. He said, "Pursue them with your tempest and terrify them with your storm." He means that figuratively, but he also, I think, possibly meant it very literally. Or in Psalm 55:8, where he talks about how God is our refuge in the times of storm. He said, "I would hurry to my place of shelter far from the tempest of storm." And that place of shelter he's talking about is the presence of God. The idea that he is a covering for me when life really, really goes crazy. And so I think it's important to us that when we think about things like stormy times in our life, and even though we're in summer and you're like me, you kind of mourn every day when the sun rises a little later and sets a little earlier and the days are getting shorter. I love the sun. I mean, I can never, if I'm going to go to a restaurant, I want to sit in the sun, I just love it. But, it's also, I know that storms in life don't come just through the weather. Sometimes storms come in relationships. We go through these stormy times. If you're married, I guarantee you there have been times where you've had some tumultuous storms between you and your beloved, and those things can be pretty frightening, pretty terrifying. You may be going through something in your life right now that you could characterize as being a storm. And I think that's why the psalmist said not only does he use those terrible times to really deal with the unbelievers, which I kind of believe is part of what's going on today, but he also uses it as an opportunity to drive us into our place of refuge. That when we don't have storms in our life, we kind of don't take the precautions and have the same care and attentiveness to the things in our life that we should. And storms are those things that make us realize that we need to run into the refuge and the shelter of Christ. Well, I'm out of time. Praying that you have a great day, and we'll pick up. I want to talk about storms a little bit more tomorrow. So God bless you and go in His grace.